Hi, Jane here from Printing Brisbane. This video is to go through a bunch of different bookbinding methods. There's quite a few of them. I'll start off with the most basic ones, take you through the complex ones, and it gives you a good idea of what's available. So this is called Wiro binding. Wire coil. It's become more popular than the plastic comb, which used to be really commonly used. And we can do another variation called plastic coil, where it's a continuous plastic coil which goes all the way down the spine. It's fairly economical for short runs of books. It's quite labour intensive, but the advantage of it and the reason it's most commonly chosen is because it gives you a lie flat book. So highly practical for workshops, menus, anywhere where someone wants to be able to leave a book flat open on the table in front of them. The most economical way of binding a book is saddle stitching. So that's just a staple down the spine. So you can see the staples in the middle there. The reason it's most economical is because it's highly automated. For short runs of books, they come out of the printer saddle stitched, complete and ready to go. So there's very little hand labour involved, which makes them economical. Do keep in mind that you've got a size limit for economical saddle stitching of books. As soon as you get larger than A3 portrait, it gets very expensive. There are some fun things that you can do with saddle stitching. You can change the colour of the staples. It's not economical, but it looks really awesome. And possibly the most important thing to keep in mind for saddle stitched books is that your pages need to be in a multiple of 4 or the book will fall apart. And this is simply because a saddle stitched book is made up of sheets of paper folded in half. So every sheet of paper that's folded in half gives you 4 printed pages. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if your book does not have a multiple of 4 pages in total, then it will fall apart. Another very popular form of binding is called burst binding. This book, I'm not sure if you can see, has been bound with the pages folded in sections, and then the spine of each section is punched with holes, and then when the glue is placed down the spine of the cover, the glue comes through the punched holes in the bundles of pages and it's held into the book really securely. It's a really smart, neat, clean method of binding a book, and it tends to be used for larger books which need to be stronger and more longer lasting. A variation on burst binding is perfect binding. This is also when individual sheets are glued into the cover, but instead of folded sections of sheets being glued into the cover, it's just single sheets being glued into the spine. The advantage of this is that your pages only need to be multiples of 2, not 4, because it's single sheets being glued into the spine. If PUR glue is used, it's extremely strong. You should be able to pick up a book of any size by one page and give it a good shake and the book doesn't fall apart. So this book has been PUR bound and it's also got a fold-out cover. The fold-out cover is a good way of giving more substance to a book without it costing a fortune. And this is actually a very special book because it's had 2 different coloured spot metallic inks used throughout the book. This book is a hardcover, also known as case bound. So on the inside of the cover, this portion of the book is actually a perfect or burst bound book in its own right. Then through the use of end papers, which is this piece of paper going across here, the book is attached to this hardcover. And the hardcover is made by gluing pre-printed full colour sheets of laminated paper onto these boards and the spine. So this is a case-bound hardcover book. There's a fair bit of handwork involved, so they're not economical, but sometimes only a case-bound book will do, and they do look really, really good. This is a variation on Wiro binding. So you might need a workbook which looks really smart and can also be put on the shelves and look great, because if you just put a normal Wiro bound book on the shelf, you will just see a row of wire coils facing you. But this book is half Canadian bound. So it's a Wiro bound book with a spine. The wire's still in there, but it's been specially punched and assembled so that you can only see the wire at the back, and when you put it on the bookshelf, you'll see the perfectly printed spine. So it's for a really high-end workbook. It's quite expensive to produce because there's a lot of handwork involved, but there's nothing else like it. It's a great solution if that's what your problem is. And then the last three examples I'm going to show you are actually Sewn, sewn on a sewing machine. I have made a video about this book in the past. This book was printed with a timber cover, and it is sewn down the spine. So that's called saddle sewn, as opposed to saddle stitching is when you have the two staples. So this one's actually gone through a sewing machine. And in the middle, you can see where the needle is punched through the paper. This book has also been sewn, but it's been hand sewn. So each section of the book has been sewn through the spine to hold the sections together to form a book. And then it's got a loose wrap around it to help give it some stability. And this book is side sewn. Again, sewn on a sewing machine. This is about the maximum thickness that you can get away with for Singer sewing a book. And it allows it to open flat. And it's one of the only ways of getting a short run of A3 landscape books that can be properly opened without costing an absolute fortune. So if you've got any more questions about the various kinds of binding, from the economical saddle stitching and coil binding through to the really smart case binding or the very special Singer sewing, then give us a call. We're happy to chat about the options with you. Thank you.